Change isn't something that happens to you, it's something that begins within you. For most of us, the natural tendency is to look outward when things don't go the way we want. We blame circumstances, the economy, people in our lives, or the environment we find ourselves in. But let me tell you something fundamental. External factors will always exist, and challenges will always come your way. The only constant in this equation is you. That's why real change, lasting, meaningful change, must begin with transforming yourself. When you understand this, you unlock the greatest power you'll ever possess, the power to control your own life. The truth is, most of us operate on autopilot, living in reaction to what happens around us. Someone criticizes us and we get defensive. A setback occurs and we feel defeated. It's as if we're puppets being pulled by the strings of the external world. But what if you could cut those strings? What if instead of reacting to life, you started creating it? To change yourself, you have to realize one essential fact. Your life is a reflection of the person you are inside. If you're dissatisfied with your relationships, it's not just about the other person. It's about the energy, the commitment, and the growth you're bringing into those relationships. If you're struggling in your career, it's not just the industry or the job market. It's about the skills you've cultivated, the mindset you bring to your work, and the drive you have to keep growing. Think about this for a moment. If you plant seeds in poor soil, you won't get a healthy crop, no matter how much water or sunlight you give them. Your internal mindset, beliefs, and habits are the soil in which your life grows. If the soil is weak, the results will always fall short. But if you tend to that soil, if you cultivate it, enrich it, and nurture it, then even the harshest conditions won't stop you from thriving. The first step to transforming yourself is to take full responsibility for your life. I know that can be uncomfortable. It's easier to say it's not my fault or things would be different if only this hadn't happened. But the moment you point a finger at the outside world, you give away your power. When you accept responsibility, not blame, but responsibility, you take back control. You say, I can change this. I can become better. I can create a different outcome. Now, taking responsibility doesn't mean being hard on yourself. It means being honest with yourself. Take a moment and look at your life. What's working and what isn't? If there's an area you're unhappy with, ask yourself, what am I doing or not doing that's contributing to limits what's possible for you? Maybe you've said to yourself, I'm not good at managing money, or I'm just not confident enough, or I'm not disciplined. But here's the thing, none of that is permanent. You weren't born with those beliefs. You learned them somewhere along the way, and because you learned them, you can unlearn them. To shift your identity, start by asking yourself, who do I want to become? Be specific. If you want to be confident, picture what that version of you looks like. How do they walk? How do they speak? How do they handle challenges? If you want to be successful, imagine how the most successful version of yourself shows up every day. What habits do they have? What do they focus on? Once you have that vision, start aligning your actions with it. Here's a powerful principle. Act as if you're already the person you want to become. If you want to be more disciplined, start by making one small commitment and keeping it. If you want to be more confident, practice speaking up in situations where you'd usually everything and everyone in your life. This process isn't easy and it won't happen overnight, but here's the beauty of it. Every small step you take compounds over time. The more you invest in your personal growth, the more you'll see your external reality begin to reflect that growth. You don't have to be perfect to start. You just have to start. So today, ask yourself, what's one area of my life I can take responsibility for? What's one small action I can take that aligns with the person I want to become? Because when you take that first step, you set a powerful chain of events in motion. The key to changing your life lies within you. And when you make the decision to change yourself, everything around you will follow. Let me ask you something. How often do you stop and question the beliefs that guide your daily decisions? Most of us go through life with a set of beliefs that we accept as truth. We rarely challenge them, and we rarely think about where they even came from. But here's the thing. Your beliefs are the foundation of your life. They shape how you think, how you act, and ultimately the results you get. If you want to change your life, you must first break through the limiting beliefs that are holding you back. Limiting beliefs are like invisible chains. You don't always see them, but you feel their pull every time you try to move forward. Maybe you've thought, I'm not smart enough to do that, or I can't succeed because I don't have the right resources. These beliefs act as barriers, keeping you stuck in a place you've outgrown. But here's the truth. Those barriers aren't real. They're stories you've told yourself over time. And the good news is that you have the power to rewrite them. The first step in breaking free from these beliefs is to identify them. This requires honesty and self-awareness. Start by asking yourself, what's stopping me from reaching the next level in my life? Be specific. Maybe you want to start a business, but you've convinced yourself that you don't have the skills. Or perhaps you want a healthier lifestyle, but believe you don't have the discipline. Write these beliefs down. Put them on paper so you can see them for what they are, thoughts, not facts. Once you've identified your limiting beliefs, challenge them. Ask yourself, is this really true, or is it just something I've assumed? Often you'll find that these beliefs have no solid foundation. They may have come from a single failure, a passing comment from someone else, or even a fear of the unknown. But here's what you have to understand. Your past does not define your future. Just because you failed once doesn't mean you'll fail again. Just because someone doubted you doesn't mean their opinion is your reality. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who's convinced they're bad at public speaking. Maybe they stumbled through a presentation in school or forgot their lines in a play. That one moment planted a seed of self-doubt. Over time, they nurtured that doubt with thoughts like, I'm just not good at this, or I'll embarrass myself if I try. But if they took a closer look, they'd realize something important. That belief isn't set in stone. It's based on one moment in time, and it can be rewritten with new experiences. This is where the real work begins. Once you've challenged your limiting beliefs, you need to replace them with empowering ones. This doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending challenges don't exist. It means choosing to focus on what's possible instead of what's holding you back. For instance, instead of saying, I can't do this, start saying, I'm learning how to do this. Instead of thinking, I'm not good enough, remind yourself, I'm capable of growing and improving. Empowering beliefs don't just change the way you think, they change the way you act. When you believe you're capable of achieving something, you're more likely to take the steps necessary to make it happen. And as you take those steps, you begin to build momentum. That momentum reinforces your new beliefs, creating a positive cycle of growth and confidence. But here's an important point. You have to back up your new beliefs with action. It's not enough to say, I can do this. You have to prove it to yourself. Start small if you need to. Take one step that challenges your limiting belief. If you think you're not good with money, start by creating a simple budget. If you believe you're not creative, try writing or drawing for 10 minutes a day. Each small action sends a message to your brain. I can do this. Over time, these actions accumulate and your confidence grows. You'll find that the beliefs that once held you back start to fade away. They lose their power because you've replaced them with evidence of your potential. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who's limited, but as someone who's capable of growth and transformation. It's also important to surround yourself with people who reinforce your new beliefs. If you're constantly around negativity or doubt, it's easy to fall back into old patterns. Seek out mentors, friends, or communities that uplift you and challenge you to rise higher. Their support will act as a mirror, reflecting the best version of yourself back to you. Breaking through limiting beliefs isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. New challenges will arise, and with them, new doubts. But the more you practice challenging and replacing those doubts, the stronger you'll become. You'll develop a mindset that sees obstacles not as roadblocks, but as opportunities to grow. Remember, your beliefs shape your reality. If you want a better reality, you must start by believing in a better version of yourself. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing to challenge what's been holding you back and taking the steps to move forward. The only limits in your life are the ones you allow to exist. So today, take a moment to ask yourself, what beliefs are keeping me from the life I want. And then commit to breaking free, because when you change the way you think, you change the way you live. And that's where transformation begins. If there's one thing I want you to take away today, it's this: nothing changes without action. You can have the most inspiring dreams, the clearest vision, and the best plan in the world, but without action, none of it matters. Action is the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. It's the catalyst that takes an idea and turns it into reality. Yet for so many people, taking action is where they get stuck. Why? Because action requires effort, courage, and the willingness to step into uncertainty. The truth is, most of us hesitate to act because we overthink. We wait for the perfect time, the perfect conditions, or the perfect opportunity. But here's the reality: there's no such thing as the perfect moment. If you wait until you're ready, you'll be waiting forever. Progress doesn't come from perfection, it comes from movement. Even if you don't have all the answers, even if you feel unsure, you must start, because starting creates momentum, and momentum creates progress. One of the most common reasons people avoid taking action is fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of making the wrong decision. But let me ask you this: what's scarier, trying and failing, or staying exactly where you are for the rest of your life? Failure isn't the enemy, inaction is. When you take action, even if it doesn't work out the way you hoped, you gain something invaluable. Experience. You learn what works and what doesn't, and you grow stronger in the process. Inaction, on the other hand, leaves you stuck in the same place, wondering what could have been. Think of action as a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You might stumble, fall, or make mistakes, but every step you take builds resilience, confidence, and capability. Over time, what once felt difficult becomes second nature. The key is to keep moving, even when it feels hard, even when you're unsure of the outcome, because every step forward, no matter how small, is a step closer to your goals. Now let's talk about consistency. It's not enough to take action once or twice and then stop. Real change requires sustained effort over time. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. You can't just water it once and expect it to grow. You have to nurture it consistently, day after day. The same is true for your dreams and goals. Whether it's building a business, improving your health, or transforming your relationships, the results you want won't happen overnight. They require a commitment to showing up and doing the work, even when it's not easy or convenient. Here's something else to consider. Action doesn't have to be perfect to be effective. So many people get caught up in the idea of doing things the right way that they never actually get started. But perfection is just a myth we tell ourselves to avoid taking risks. The truth is, imperfect action is better than no action at all, because even if you don't get it right the first time, you can always adjust and improve as you go. The important thing is to get moving. Clarity often comes from action, not the other way around. Another powerful aspect of action is its ability to build confidence. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you develop through experience. Every time you take a step forward, even if it's a small one, you prove to yourself that you're capable. That proof builds trust in your abilities, and that trust fuels even greater action. It's a positive cycle that starts with a single decision to act. But what about when you face setbacks? Because let's be honest, action doesn't always lead to immediate success. Sometimes you'll encounter obstacles. You might fail, stumble, or face rejection. That's okay. Setbacks are not a sign that you should stop. They're a sign that you're growing. Every failure is a lesson, and every lesson brings you closer to success. The most successful people in the world didn't get there by avoiding failure. They got there by embracing it, learning from it, and continuing to move forward. To make action a habit, start by focusing on small, manageable steps. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when you're looking at a big goal, but breaking it down into smaller actions makes it more achievable. If you want to run a marathon, don't focus on the 26 miles. Focus on running 1 mile today. If you want to start a business, Don't worry about building an empire overnight. Focus on creating your first product or reaching your first client. Small steps lead to big results over time. Finally, remember this. Action is a choice. Every single day, you have the opportunity to decide how you'll show up for your life. Will you stay in your comfort zone, or will you take a step toward the person you want to become? It's not always an easy choice, but it's a powerful one. Because with every action you take, you're telling the world and yourself what you're capable of. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing to take the first step. Because once you do, you'll realize that the path to change has always been within your reach. All it takes is action. Every decision you've ever made and every action you've ever taken have been guided by two forces, pain and pleasure. These two forces are the invisible hands shaping your life. They dictate your choices, your behaviors, and ultimately the results you achieve. The key to mastering change lies in understanding how to leverage these forces rather than letting them control you. If you can harness the power of pain and pleasure, you can create a life of purpose, growth, and fulfillment. Think about this for a moment. Every time you avoid doing something, it's because on some level you associate it with pain. Maybe it's starting a new fitness routine, having a difficult conversation, or stepping out of your comfort zone. You don't avoid these things because you're lazy or incapable. You avoid them because your brain has linked them to discomfort, effort, or even failure. At the same time, every time you pursue something, it's because you associate it with pleasure. Whether it's spending time with loved ones, enjoying a hobby, or achieving a milestone, these actions feel rewarding, and that's why you prioritize them. The problem is that most of us don't consciously choose what we associate with pain and pleasure. These associations are often formed unconsciously through past experiences, societal expectations, or emotional reactions. Over time, they become patterns that dictate how we live. But here's the truth. You have the power to change those patterns. You can rewire the way you think about pain and pleasure so that they work for you, not against you. The first step is to get honest with yourself about what you currently associate with pain and pleasure. Take a look at the areas of your life where you feel stuck. Maybe it's your career, your health, or your relationships. Ask yourself, what have I been avoiding and why? Be specific. For example, if you've been avoiding starting a new project at work, maybe it's because you associate it with stress, long hours, or the fear of failing. Write it down. Then flip the question, what do I associate with pleasure? Maybe it's the comfort of staying in your current role, the predictability of your routine, or the temporary relief of not having to take risks. When you see these associations laid out, you'll realize something important. They're not fixed. They're just stories you've been telling yourself. And because you created these stories, you have the power to rewrite them. The next step is to attach massive pain to staying where you are and massive pleasure to taking action. This is where transformation begins. Your brain is wired to avoid pain and seek pleasure, so you have to make the pain of inaction greater than the discomfort of change. Let's go back to the example of starting a new project. Imagine what will happen if you don't take action. Picture the opportunities you'll miss, the growth you'll forfeit, and the regret you'll feel. Let that pain become vivid and real in your mind. Then shift your focus to the pleasure of taking action. Imagine the sense of accomplishment you'll feel when you complete the project, the skills you'll gain, and the doors that will open because you stepped up. Feel the excitement and pride that come with progress. When you do this, you're reconditioning your brain to associate action with pleasure and inaction with pain. Over time, this shift in perspective becomes a new pattern, a new way of thinking that drives you forward instead of holding you back. It's also important to understand that pain and pleasure aren't just about avoiding or pursuing feelings in the moment. They're about long-term outcomes. Many of the things that bring immediate pleasure, like procrastination, unhealthy habits, or avoiding challenges, lead to long-term pain. Conversely, the things that feel uncomfortable in the short term, like discipline, hard work, and facing your fears, lead to long-term pleasure. The key is to focus on the bigger picture, not just the immediate experience. This shift in perspective is what separates those who achieve lasting change from those who stay stuck. The people who grow, succeed, and thrive are the ones who are willing to endure short-term discomfort for long-term gain. They've learned to redefine what pain and pleasure mean to them. They've decided that the pain of growth is far less than the pain of staying the same. Let me give you an example. Think about someone who decides to get in shape. At first, the idea of exercising regularly might feel overwhelming. They might associate it with soreness, exhaustion, and the inconvenience of making time for workouts. But as they start to take action, something shifts. They begin to associate exercise with feeling stronger, having more energy, and gaining confidence. The pain of staying unhealthy becomes greater than the discomfort of working out, and the pleasure of becoming fit becomes their driving force. The same principle applies to every area of life. Whether it's advancing in your career, building deeper relationships, or pursuing a dream, the process of growth will have its challenges. But when you focus on the pleasure of the results you want and the pain of missing out on them, you'll find the motivation to keep going. So, how do you make this a habit? Start by asking yourself 2 powerful questions every day. First, what will it cost me if I don't take action? Be brutally honest. Imagine the pain of staying stuck and letting your potential go unrealized. Second, what will I gain if I do take action? Visualize the pleasure of achieving your goals and becoming the person you want to be. Let these questions guide your choices, and you'll find that taking action becomes not just easier, but natural. Remember, pain and pleasure are tools. Use them wisely, and they will become your greatest allies in the journey of change. Because when you master these forces, you master your life. And that's where true transformation begins.